Hey guys, welcome back to No Excuses. I'm Sierra, an artist from Papua New Guinea, and I make videos defending and strengthening the Christian faith. And today's video is the long-awaited furry video. I'll be drawing my character Springroll and Sunbee's character Albie. Before we get into the video, may I ask you to hit the thumbs up button if you like what I have to say? I've been getting a lot of thumbs downs and negative comments recently, and every like and subscribe tells the algorithm that my video is worth sharing with other people. Thanks! So the main reason why I got into the whole furry community was my love of animals. I have entire sketchbooks full of wolves, foxes, and cats from the time around where this whole problem started, as well as 3 thick notebooks full of a story about magic foxes that I never finished. I mean, I was that one little girl who only wore clothes with animals on them. That love of animals attracted me to a mobile game called Wildcraft, where you run around a small world map as an animal. I originally played single player, as my parents didn't want me interacting with people online, but the allure of multiplayer was too much for me, and I eventually gave in. I had very little interactions with people online, and was very intrigued by the diverse player base. I became super interested in the role-playing side of the community. I loved telling little stories with my characters, and hanging out with really fun people. At some point, someone convinced me to friend them on the app Amino, and from there I was introduced to a whole new world of interactions. Amino is a huge app that basically functions as a public forum. At that point, the only part of Amino I knew about was the chat rooms, and from that I only interacted with the animal roleplay chat rooms. I learned about warrior cats from there, and though the books bored me, the community really drew me in. I love the idea of making my own characters and having them interact with other people's characters, and role-playing and making up alternate storylines to the original Warrior Cats universe. I got so sucked into role-playing that it took over my entire life. I mean, from the time I got home from school at 4 p.m. to 3 in the morning, I was on my phone, role-playing Warrior Cats. At this point, I wouldn't call myself a furry. I realize that the term furry is ambiguous, but I like to think of it as someone whose identity is somewhat wrapped up in animals, anthropomorphic or not. At this point, I was merely obsessed, because it was fun. What really turned me into a furry was what can only be called grooming. There was sexual grooming as well, but because of a mental block and my audience being made up of quite a few young people, I'm not going to get into it. Throughout the roleplayers on Amino, there were quite a few people who were wrapping their entire identities around their love of animals, even back then. I knew it was wrong, but the fact that the whole thing was so exotic to me made me way too curious. Before I knew it, I was wrapped up in a group who believed their soul was tied to an animal, whether a general species or a specific animal depended on the person. They firmly believed that they were something less than human. Believing this was so, alluring to me? I was a tomboy who just didn't fit in with kids my age. Having something to blame for this while also feeling different wasn't necessarily fulfilling, but I thought it would be eventually. I thought in my soul I was really a cat named Goldenpaw, but it later changed to a cat named Turtle Splotch. As you can imagine, between disobeying my parents, hardly sleeping, and degrading myself to the level of an animal, I became physically and mentally ill. I knew how evil I was, and how much I was sinning, but I was so deeply pulled into the whole thing, I just couldn't escape. After several months of going deeper and deeper into the furry community, my parents finally found out. They had known something was wrong. I was pretty much dying from sleep exhaustion. But they found the Amino app on my phone, and discovered all that had happened. But even after I got better, and I was allowed on the internet again, I didn't realize how bad it all was. I was still in love with the idea of role-playing. I started a Facebook page with Turtle Splotch as my quote-unquote Sona, and began posting my art. I don't remember when it happened or what prompted the change, but at some point I came to the full realization how damaging being a furry was. I deleted my Facebook page and started a new one with the purpose of serving God's kingdom, which eventually led to where I am now. But even though I moved on, there are a lot of side effects I'm still dealing with today. On top of dealing with severe depression, I developed medically diagnosed insomnia that I still deal with today. I developed habits of self-hate that I haven't been able to break until now. I also developed an intense loathing for drawing animals. I still loved animals. I have 6 cats. And I still liked drawing animals. But my mind just goes back to the time I was a furry every time I draw an animal. And if I so much as drew a cat in my sketchbook, I'd feel intensely guilty. It actually hasn't been until this month that I've gotten over this. Mainly because of my dear friend Sunbee. She draws almost all animals, fantastical and real, and she's one of the strongest young Christians I know. Just interacting with her has made me confront this internalized belief that Christians shouldn't draw animals. And so now I'm back to drawing cats, and I love it. My point in all of this is that when we're trapped in sin, it slowly destroys us, and the consequences can be long-lasting. Just a warning to anyone who knows they're trapped in sin. Thanks for tuning in and listening to my testimony. If you have any similar stories of how God has changed your life, please share them in the comments. Hope to see you in the next one. God bless.